of small businesses struggle with providing insurance for their workers, so this is supposed to facilitate it and make it easier for small businesses to do this. It was a huge portion of the sell job. When they passed the law in 2010, there were many senators and members of Congress saying, I'm doing this because it's going to help small businesses. And they made a big deal of saying this is going to facilitate a lot of choice for their workers. Now we learn that the law, that the administration is essentially ignoring the law and not going to implement it in 2014, and they're going to implement it only in 2015 and later.
The bottom line, though, Charles, is that the thing that Obamacare is supposed to do, which is change the cost curve, it does not appear that it is set up to do at this point. In fact, the cost curve is going the other way.
Of course. I mean, we already know from CBO numbers that it will increase the cost of health care by $1.3 trillion. The reason that it's deficit neutral is because Obamacare at the same time increases taxes by the same amount plus $1, so that it looks as if it's not costing anything. But this is what happens when you have an administration that has the idea that it can reform, remake, and completely re-regulate 1/6 of the biggest economy on planet Earth. I mean, I'm not surprised that the regulations are late and they are unclear. And they are also incredibly arbitrary. The waivers people get, thousands of them. Who gets it? Who doesn't? Somebody whom the government or the Democrats or liberals like, somebody that is not liked, are you going to get a waiver? Look, when you take away the essence of insurance, you set a premium according to actuarial risk. So if you're 60, your health care costs are 6 times what it is for a 20-year-old. So your premiums are 6 times as much. But the Congress, in its wisdom, has decided it should be 3 times instead of 6. So once you do that, you no longer have an insurance company. This is not insurance anymore. This is regulation. This is government-dictated rates, like the electrical company, and people are surprised that all of a sudden you've got all these things that aren't working harmoniously as you would in a market. So all of this stuff, the delays, the regulation, the arbitrariness, the unfairness, is a direct result of taking over 1/6 of the American economy on a flyer in a system that nobody else has devised in the history of man.
The industry is being punished for its innovation and growth. The medical device tax is cutting into the proceeds that go toward research and development and workforce training. And by taxing companies on the first dollar of sales, they are especially hurting the very small companies, startup companies, which may not be in profit yet. On this point, I disagree with the Obama administration, did from the beginning.
Look, it was a majority of Democrats who supported the repeal of that tax today. And as this gargantuan Rube Goldberg machine unfolds next year and begins to fall apart, there'll be a lot of items on which a majority of Democrats are going to say enough.
I don't think we can maintain the same level of security at all places around the country with sequester as without sequester.
The Secretary came in here and said that we were going to be less safe, that people were going to be crossing the border because there were less Border Patrol agents. And then they announced yesterday, actually, we're not doing that. So I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying, did she mislead the public?
Absolutely not.
They announced yesterday they're not doing that.
Well, but there are reductions, and whether it's those Border Patrol... Go ahead and report that, Ed. We've made clear. Look,
she said 5,000. They said yesterday we're not doing that.
Talk to those who have been laid off at defense industries. Talk to those who have been furloughed in the. Look, you can obviously go to DHS and.
She said we're going to be less safe.
Right, and the impacts of the sequester will not all be immediate.
What's tough sometimes to listen to, Charles, is when they forget what they said before. Or at least it appears that they forgot what they said before.
I think it's a willed amnesia. But I think the real story, I think Ed Henry is being extremely cynical. The real story is that between our first clip of the Secretary saying we're going to have to cut the Border Patrol, and today they discovered in the headquarters of DHS a pot of gold. Had been there the whole time, they didn't know where it was, and all this, it was discovered like last week or something. And they now are able to fund the border security up to the limit. Look, it's very obvious what happened here. In the experience in the past, when there have been shutdowns or threats of shutdowns, Republicans took the blame. That was in the 90s with the government shutdown and with the debt ceiling. If anything bad happened, even if it was unrelated, let's say the reduction in our credit rating, the Republicans got the blame. Obama assumed it would happen with the sequester, so he went after all the stuff that would be really appalling, like denying Iowa tots a visit in the White House and opening the border. And it turned out that everybody says, look, they're spending $3.5 trillion a year, and you can't have a tour of the White House, and you have to end up laying off the border security people. It's absurd. So the blame was headed the administration's way, and thus the pots of gold all of a sudden have been discovered in every agency in government. It's an Easter miracle.
This has been a Sunfish production.